The annual member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I am pleased for the opportunity to rise today and speak on the Budget Implementation Act, even though we are in the 11th hour of this session, looking forward to rise at the end of this week for summer recess. It has been 9 years of this costly Prime Minister, and each successive budget creates a bleaker outlook for Canadians' futures. The guise of fiscal restraint has been cast away, and the Prime Minister and his Finance Minister have put the pedal to the metal. They have decided to spend Canadians' money at an alarming rate, with no plan to balance the budget, pay off the debt, or even rein in deficits to a modest level. They are literally going for broke. They believe they can tax their way out of the problems which their out-of-control spending has created. While inflation has reached record levels, the government continues to pour fuel on the inflationary fire with tens of billions of dollars in new spending. And I know I've gotten carried away, Madam Speaker. I should be mentioning that I am going to be splitting my time with my colleague, the member for Central Okanagan, Similkameen Nicola. In fact, Tiff Macklem, the Governor of the Bank of Canada, stated that this Prime Minister's $61 billion in new spending was not helpful, and I quote, not helpful in bringing down inflation. It cost the average Canadian family an extra $3,867. But this Prime Minister refuses to learn from his mistakes and continues to double down on his failed policies, which means more inflationary deficits, driving up inflation and interest rates, doubling our national debt, thus endangering our social programs and jobs across the country. More to the point, Madam Speaker, doubling the national debt means that the federal government will now be spending more on interest on its debt than it will send to the provinces for health care. $54.1 billion will be spent on servicing our national debt, half of which this Prime Minister is responsible for. The high spending addiction of this government has endangered Canadians' livelihoods. It has led to a record high of 2 million visits to food banks in a single month. And now we have a report from Food Banks Canada that 1 in 4 Canadians are living in poverty. After 9 years of this Prime Minister's disastrous policies, 25% of Canadians are living in poverty. Every party in this House had the chance to vote on giving Canadians a break, to help them keep more of their money in their pocket, when Conservatives proposed giving Canadians a break from the carbon tax for the summer. But instead of giving Canadians the relief they are looking for from the oppressive Liberal carbon tax regime just for the summer, they have doubled down and introduced a new capital gains tax increase. Despite Canadians struggling paycheck to paycheck, the Liberals have decided to endanger their retirements which have taken decades of prudent planning, saving, and investing to build. According to this government, it is unfair for a plumber to sell their business they built over decades to fund their retirement. It's unfair for an electrician to sell the company they built to fund their retirement. It's unfair for a doctor to sell their shares in their practice to fund their retirement. You know what is unfair, Madam Speaker? It is unfair for the Liberals to take more of Canadians' hard-earned, self-made retirement funds so that they can continue to indulge in spending billions of dollars on their failed policies. Yet the Prime Minister continues to squeeze Canadians for every last dollar with tax increases while showing no signs of fiscal restraint. Perhaps if the Prime Minister is worried about the richest in Canada, he should take a look in the mirror. While life has gotten worse for Canadians, this Prime Minister and his friends have never had it so good, with tens of billions of dollars going out the door each year to his high-priced consultants. Hundreds of millions of dollars in favorable contracts to his friends at McKinsey. while it was led by the Prime Minister's close friend, Dominic Barton. $222 million given to Rio Tinto, just months after Dominic Barton became the chairman. The billion-dollar green slush fund funneling hundreds of millions of dollars to Liberal insiders with no oversight. Canadians suffer and Liberal insiders prosper. After 9 years of this Prime Minister, Canada is on track for its worst decline in living standards in 40 years, with more than 9 in 10 middle-class families paying more in income taxes. Struggling families can't afford this Prime Minister's higher taxes and out-of-control spending, which is driving up the cost of everything. This government has doubled rent, mortgage payments, and down payments, and the number of tent cities is growing across this country. It is no wonder that Canadians are fed up with this NDP Liberal coalition. The Prime Minister is trying to trick Canadians now into believing that he will fix what he broke by doubling down on his failed policies. Issues that were created by 9 years of methodically disastrous policies and have made life more expensive for Canadians. Policies which have stolen the dream of home ownership from young Canadians. Policies which have forced Canadians to live paycheck to paycheck. Policies which have endangered Canadians through a steep increase in violent crime. Now that these policies have caused crises in housing, immigration, crime, inflation, and other areas, this government feigns interest in fairness. It is not fair to Canadians to jeopardize their retirements with a punitive capital gains tax increase. It is not fair to double housing prices and rent. It is not fair to drive up inflation, drastically increasing the prices of everyday necessities, including basic food items. It is not fair to push 25% of Canadians into poverty and force millions to visit food banks in a single month. This government does not care about fairness. They care about spending as much taxpayer dollars in their short time left in government and setting themselves and their insider friends up for comfortable retirements. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, it will come as no surprise that I cannot support this Budget Implementation Act. It is more of the same failed policies from the NDP Liberal coalition, which refuses to acknowledge its failures. If any member in this place truly believes in fairness, they cannot vote in favour of this bill. No member can look around Canada today after 9 years of this NDP coalition, Liberal coalition, and truly believe that this government has served Canadians well. It borders on the absurd that Liberal members can stand in this place, claim that this budget, which is more of the same policies that got us into this current mess, will somehow now get us out of it. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Unfortunately, Canadians are the ones paying the price for this madness. I will repeat what I said when speaking to the budget. Canadians are losing hope. They are hanging on by a thread, and this bill will be the scissor that severs it. This bill should not be passed. Canadians are depending on all opposition members to stop this government's harmful policies and its out-of-control spending and vote non-confidence. Yes. Thank you.
Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Government House Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker, allow me to provide and pick up on the issue of caring. If the member opposite and members of the Conservative Party truly cared, they should do some self-reflection in terms of why it is that they don't believe fixed-income seniors that do not have a dental plan not be allowed to have access to getting dental services and supported by the Government of Canada. Even Pembroke has dental services, I think a half dozen or more, being made available to their constituents, Madam Speaker. I would ask the member why. Oh, I know that. Madam Speaker, my question is, why will the Conservative after Conservative Reform member across the way, all those Reformers and former Alliance members, why would they not support fixed income seniors in the ridings in which they represent getting dental care? Is it because they don't care?
The honourable member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I appreciate the question, because at the end of the day, what Conservatives are going to do, and we have a simple plan, and I know he could probably repeat it verbatim, we will axe the tax. We will build the homes. We will fix the budget and stop the crime. You know what? This government has a housing accelerator fund that is not building houses. It has a school lunch program that is not serving lunches. It has a national dental program with a handful of dentists that have signed up. And Madam Speaker, we are going to cut the waste and mismanagement of this government and restore common sense for Canadians.
Questions et commentaires. L'honorable député de Beauport.
The Honourable Member for Beauport, Côte-de-Beaupré, Île-d'Orléans, Charlevoix. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I thank my colleague for her pronouncement. Now, here's my question for my colleague. It's a topic she knows very well, common sense. When my father raised me, we talked a lot about common sense. What is common sense? Common sense is based on things that are unanimous or almost unanimous, that almost everyone can agree on. Now, is this party going in the direction of unanimity? Because there's still a wide swath of the population worried about climate change, worried about the billions we're handing to already ultra-wealthy big oil. And that's taxpayer money. So since the colleague supports common sense, would she support withdrawing these subsidies to big oil and increase health transfers to provinces? That way, the provinces would be able to catch their breath when it comes to administering health care. So will her potential future government cut subsidies to big oil and increase health transfers?
Eagle Creek.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I do thank my honourable colleague for the question. You know, I think one thing that Canadians can count on is that Conservatives are the party of common sense. We are consistent in our approach when it comes to reducing taxes. We are consistent when it comes to making life more prosperous for Canadians. Right. And we are consistent when it comes to how we vote in this place, something that member should actually talk to her leadership about.
Bravo. For a brief question, the honourable member Skeena-Balclay Valley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks to the member for Carleton Trail Eagle Creek for those comments. I enjoy sitting on committee with her. I was thinking back to another minority parliament that saw a tremendous amount of progress when it comes to iconic policies that are now an integral part of the fabric of our country. Things like the Canada Pension Plan, things like Canada Student Loans, things like the 40-hour work week and 2 weeks vacation time and a new minimum wage. Many of these things that were put in place despite the opposition from the Conservative Party. Is she not worried that she's on the wrong side of history when she rails against things like a national dental care plan, like universal pharmacare for people who need prescription medication? Is it not clear that these things will make our country stronger?
The honourable member Carleton Trail Eagle Creek, a brief answer, please.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I do thank my colleague for that question. He's right. We do serve on the Government Operations and Estimates Committee together, and one of the things that we've been actually dealing with is the absolute out-of-control spending of this current Liberal government when it comes to outside consultants, when it comes to lining the pockets of Liberal insiders and their friends. And so I guess what I would put back on the member is just a question to him. When is he finally going to start standing up for Canadians and be an opposition member that is looking out for their interests? Thank you.